I do apologize for the audio on that last video. I paid $570 for this laptop, and it's pretty shitty, especially the microphone. So I'll redo the video. Anyway, the white Christian roommate apologized for his drug deal and promised it wouldn't happen again. I don't know if I can believe him or not, but I want to believe that, it seemed pretty genuine. But my experience with drug users and drug dealers is their word is not reliable. Anyhow, it is optimal for me to continue to stay with them in terms of finances, but not ethics, which I find interesting. But I digress. So for example, the Native American pancreas and liver doesn't secrete the enzymes necessary to process and metabolize alcohol into sugar. Hence why Native Americans have a 13% alcohol overdose death rate, where everyone else is 5% globally. Right now, or at least according to Google, and there's dueling results, of course, but more white people do methamphetamine than Native Americans. But there's more Native American overdose deaths due to methamphetamines. The numbers reflect a genetic difference, and genes reflect a different response to drugs. However, if Whitey has a greater resilience, this is not invincibility, as is obvious by all the homeless white people on drugs as a direct consequence of cannabis decriminalization and legalization, along with CBD and its derivatives. Anyway, this video is about something not completely different, it's all related, but yeah. I attended the Reform Synagogue Zoom last Shabbat. I know why, but it's not because I genuinely want to convert to Judaism through reformists. Cringe. No, it's Vashon's one of the places that I stayed for a long period of time. And I was victimized, but painted as a villain. Because rich white people, rich white liberals, especially Ashkenazi, like very specific Ashkenazi I can name individually, are very good at painting their victims as villains. They're very deceptive and manipulative. Rich people are not rich because they're stupid. So, I was the victim of deception and manipulation, but painted as the villain. Anyhow. So that's a whole thing. When I was living there, the marijuana culture was setting off my mental illness, and that caused me to electrocute myself and other negative events. And eventually, because I couldn't find a single person in the entire Puget Sound that was honest to simply admit that I had a mental illness, or that marijuana was making it, activating and exacerbating it. The connection between marijuana and psychosis is not something rich white liberals are honest about, and I think that's because they use it to keep the population controlled, not just in numbers, but, other aspects as well, and therefore keep the population down on the island, things like that. And when I began to self-study psychology and self-apply it because of the moral/ethical corruption of these white Ashkenazi and white liberals that were rich, I began to isolate and identify contributing factors to maladaptive thoughts and behavior. And one of those was marijuana, big one because of schizophrenia. And that includes secondhand marijuana. And there was a lot of that on Vashon. Just like any drug user, they can't not force it on anyone and everyone else around them they possibly can. Hence why criminalization is the only thing that stops them. It doesn't eliminate it completely, but it reduces it greatly. Anyhow. So, I recall these rich white liberals and Ashkenazi on Facebook were telling me that Trump is the bad guy because I'm colored. I'm a disenfranchised ethnic minority, a person of color. And so evil, racist Republicans and white Christians and conservatives are Hitler and blah, blah, blah. And because my brain injury had started, recovering to a certain extent, I saw these people were actually the ones who were fucking me over in real life. But on Facebook, they were telling me it was all Trump's fault. It was as though the rich white liberals of Vashon, and I include Ashkenazi in that label, were the ones holding the knife in my back with one hand and pointing the finger at Trump with the other, saying, this is all his fault. He's the one who stabbed you in the back with the knife that I'm holding. Not me. Marijuana is harmless. Yeah. You're not schizophrenic. What? No. Stigma. Right. I'd rather have my left hand, parts of my feet, etc., than not be stigmatized. Fucking morons. Anyway. So, I thought that if I went to a white Christian conservative area, that it would be, the antagonist to the agonist, the yin to the yang. And therefore, white Christian conservatives would be drug-free, sexually moral, not, guilty of adultery and so forth and so on, homosexuality, etc. I've since been disillusioned from that vague and inaccurate overgeneralization. But in that process, I thought if I rejoined the Christian church, that I would find a place that was marijuana-free, a community. Literally, a physical environment, a neighborhood, whatever. A square city block. Oh, one sec. A big motivation for that was I had read Dr. Albert Ellis's Reason and Emotion in Behavior Therapy. And he discusses isolating and identifying contributing factors to maladaptive thoughts and behavior. If you eliminate those factors, you eliminate the behavior. Cause and effect. Eliminate the cause, eliminate the effect. So I began to keep a journal of schizophrenic episodes, causes, documenting time, date, location, likely a source of secondhand marijuana if that was the cause. Could it be stressors? Could it be I'm thinking myself into it, right? Placebo, etc. And sure enough, this is the scientific method, right? Process of elimination. I moved to a red state and found a zone that was drug-free for a period of time, which has happened sometimes throughout my life, but it's never permanent. And the elimination of secondhand marijuana from my environment, the elimination of involuntary intoxication, forced drugging via secondhand smoke, right? Involuntary exposure to secondhand marijuana. The contact high, I believe it's colloquially referred. With that eliminated, my schizophrenic episodes and positive symptom presentation reduced 80 to 90%. I would document the hallucinations, what I was seeing, as well as the voices in my head, what they were saying, frequency, intensity, and duration. Right? How long did it last? Sometimes it would go 3 days, sometimes 5 days. So, needless to say, all the white Christian conservatives, even in the Bible Belt, failed to be drug-free, monogamous, sober, etc. And that's being reminded now with this guy and his mushroom deal last Saturday. I find that very interesting because where I'm at, there's this place called the Virginia Training Center. It's an abandoned asylum, lead paint in the walls. It's where Carrie Buck was sterilized against her will and without her consent for feeble-mindedness, so she wouldn't reproduce. And it's where they used to do lobotomies and a bunch of other things. There's a mystery graveyard. They're not sure who's in it or how many bodies are in it, etc. At the old asylum from the early 1900s. Well, given that marijuana causes psychosis in white Americans, I find it insane that white Americans still enthusiastically pursue things that are harmful and self-destructive to them, particularly with substance consumption. Prohibition, alcohol prohibition, for example, would have been really great for the Native American, but Whitey is so selfish, he'd rather let the Injun die than give up his booze. Yeesh. And that's the case with this guy that I'm living with. He told me that he saw demons on marijuana, and that's why he quit smoking it 3 years ago. But was selling it a year ago. So even though it caused him to see demons, he's going to cause other white people to see demons and hallucinate and etc. on marijuana as long as he can make money. It's fucking wild. As a Christian conservative. And that's insane to me, because white people, specifically these roommates, are so smart yet so stupid at the same time. How can someone so smart be so stupid? They're very good with money, very good at, generating income, etc., producing food, things like that. But then they're dumb at other things. And I don't mean choosing greed over morality. I mean, 3 days ago, I did a bug bomb in my room. And they thought that they had to get the dogs out of the house for 3 days, and that I would have to mop and wipe down everything to get the chemicals off of the surfaces. And then I didn't do any of that. And the smell was gone within a few hours, and they couldn't smell it anymore and forgot about it. So I think they saw TikTok videos telling them how marijuana is harmless and medical and good, and they're programmed by TikTok. And oh yeah, no, the bug bombing chemicals are going to kill your dogs, but the drugs that make you see demons are fine. Right, Whitey? And I remember at one point I thought, well, if Mexicans failed at this and all these other ethnicities failed at this, and even white people can't go without drugs, surely the Jews, the master Ashkenazi who defeated Whitey and all this stuff, right? According to white supremacists, the Jews beat Whitey at his own game. They surely enough will be drug-free, right? Religious Jews, lefty Jews, righty Jews, secular Jews, whatever. No. There are Jews, both religious and atheist, who are anti-marijuana. But then there's religious Jews, like Twitter account Jews, and Sarah Silverfish and Death Rogan, who are, of course, big cannabis pushers. And they don't give a shit, just like these white people, they don't give a shit about the lives they destroy. They only care about money and power. So maybe Whitey deserves the anti-white racism and the demographic replacing and stuff as karma, as there's a karmic component to all this. Maybe just as much as the evil Jews, the wicked Jews, deserve the anti-Semitism. And it's that easy. That's how you can tell the difference between a good Jew and an evil Jew, is their attitude on marijuana or LGBTQ, etc.